The stale smell of coffee and frying grease was Christine's world. Wiping down the counter of the nearly empty Moonlight Diner, she let out a frustrated sigh. Her phone buzzed, a message from her friend, asking about her date last night. Christine's thumbs flew across the screen, pouring out her disappointment. "Total frog," she typed, a small smile playing on her lips. "Seriously, I wish a real, powerful man would just sweep me off my feet for once. This is so boring." She hit send without a second thought, only to freeze a second later. A tiny, unknown number stared back at her from the top of the screen. Her heart did a little flip. Wrong number. Before she could even think to type an apology, 3 dots appeared. The reply was instant and icy. "Who is this? How did you get this number?" Panic, cold and sharp, pricked at her skin. This wasn't just some confused stranger. The tone was demanding, angry. She had to fix this. "I'm so sorry," she typed back, her fingers trembling. "Wrong number. Just a waitress complaining about a bad date. Please ignore." The 3 dots appeared again, menacingly. A waitress where? That was a weird question. Why did that matter? To prove she was harmless, to put a face to the stupid text, she did something impulsive. Leaning back against the cracked vinyl booth, she stuck out her tongue, capturing the dim glow of the diner's sign behind her, and snapped a silly selfie. She sent it with the message, "See? Just me. At the Moonlight Diner. No spy, I promise." Smiley face. Across the street, idling in the shadows between 2 warehouses, a black sedan sat like a panther waiting to strike. Inside, Rico, the Viper, Conti read the text. His usual expression was a mask of cold control, but his brow furrowed slightly. A spy would never be this clumsy. An enemy would never be so open. His thumb hovered over the photo. A young woman with warm, laughing eyes and a splash of freckles across her nose. He was about to type a command to have the number traced and monitored when his eyes drifted to the background of the photo. The familiar neon sign of the Moonlight Diner glowed, and right beyond the window, he could see the very warehouse wall his car was parked against. His head snapped up. He was looking at his own location. She was literally across the street. The sound wasn't loud, but it was wrong. It was the low, purring rumble of multiple expensive engines, a sound that didn't belong on this quiet, worn-out street. Christine looked up from her phone, her blood turning to ice water. One by one, like silent sharks, black cars slid into place, surrounding the diner. They blocked the doors and the view from the windows, trapping her inside. The bell above the door didn't just jingle, it screamed. He walked in, and he was nothing like the powerful, sweaty men she imagined from movies. He was young, with sharp, handsome features and dark, intense eyes that scanned the room and landed on her like a laser. He was the man from the text. He had to be. He moved with a quiet confidence that made the air feel thick. 2 other large men followed him but stayed by the door, their arms crossed. He didn't ask for her. He just walked directly to her booth and sat down in the seat opposite, the one she had just wiped clean. "Christine," he said. His voice was low, not a shout, but it carried a weight that made her flinch. He knew her name. She expected yelling. Threats. Instead, he was eerily calm. "You texted the most dangerous man in this city to complain about a date," he stated, no question in his tone. "It was a mistake," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I know." He leaned back, studying her. He asked about her life. Not like he was interrogating her, but like he was genuinely curious. He asked about her shifts, her customers, her tiny apartment above the laundromat. He listened, truly listened, as she stumbled through her answers. She found herself talking about her dream of going to college, something she hadn't told anyone in years. His world, he explained without any details, was full of people who wanted something from him: power, money, favor. Her world, a world of tips and burnt toast, sounded like a strange, peaceful dream to him. The fear began to melt away, replaced by a strange understanding. Under the power and the scary stories, he just seemed deeply lonely. Hours seemed to pass. The diner's night cook had long since left, leaving them alone but for the silent guards. Finally, Rico stood up. The spell was broken. He looked down at her, and for the first time, his expression was unguarded, almost soft. "You're the first person who hasn't wanted something from me in years," he said, his voice quiet. The moment was shattered by the buzz of his phone. He answered it, and his entire posture changed. The softness vanished, replaced by a cold, hard stone. His eyes turned to chips of ice. "The traitor has been found," he said into the phone, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. "Keep him alive. I want to talk to him myself." He left without another word to her. The black cars vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving Christine alone in the silent diner, shaking. The kind, lonely man was gone, and the mafia boss had taken his place. For the next week, Christine jumped at every sound. But her phone, the source of all this trouble, became a lifeline. A text appeared from Rico's number later that night. It wasn't an apology. It was just a single word. "Sorry." Tentatively, she texted back. For what? The black cars or the scary phone call? His reply was swift. Both. And so, a secret friendship began. They texted about everything and nothing. He asked about her day. She asked if he'd eaten. He never talked about his work, and she never asked. It was a strange, digital bubble of normalcy in his chaotic life. He was funny, in a dry, sharp way she hadn't expected. One night, a firm knock echoed from her apartment door. It was past midnight. Peering through the peephole, her heart leaped into her throat. Rico was there, leaning heavily against her doorframe. His face was pale, and a dark red stain was spreading through the side of his expensive-looking jacket. "I couldn't go to my men," he grunted as she pulled him inside, her mind racing. Not for this. He trusted her. The realization hit her as she guided him to a chair and rushed for her first aid kit. He trusted her, a waitress he barely knew, with his life. Her hands shook as she cleaned the gash on his side. He didn't make a sound, just watched her, his dark eyes intense in the low light of her lamp. The air in her small apartment crackled with the energy she had never felt before. It was scary and exciting all at once. When she finished taping the bandage in place, his hand came up, his fingers gently circling her wrist. His touch was electric. He pulled her closer, his gaze dropping to her lips. "This is a bad idea," he whispered, his voice rough. "The worst," she agreed, but she didn't pull away. The space between them vanished. The kiss wasn't gentle or sweet. It was desperate, fiery, and full of all the unspoken danger and longing between them. It was a kiss that promised chaos, and in that moment, Christine didn't care. The next morning, she woke up with a smile, the memory of his kiss warming her skin. Rico was gone, but the scent of his cologne lingered on her pillows. She floated into her small kitchen, feeling like her life had finally become a thrilling, romantic movie. The sound of low voices from the hallway outside her apartment door broke her reverie. She recognized the two men who had been with Rico at the diner, standing guard. They weren't talking to her. "The guy who stabbed the boss last night," one of them was saying. "He sang like a canary before we even touched him. Turns out he was on the payroll of Salvatore, the Wolf, Marino." Christine froze, her breath catching. She didn't know the name, but the title, The Wolf, sent a fresh shiver down her spine. The other guard let out a low whistle. "Marino? I thought he was a ghost. The boss has been looking for him for years." "Yeah, well, he's real. And get this," the first man said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "The guy said Marino has a daughter no one knows about. The boss is going to lose his mind when he finds out." "A daughter?" The words echoed in Christine's head. She leaned closer to the door, her heart hammering against her ribs. "What's her name?" the second guard asked. The first man chuckled, a cold, ugly sound. "Christine. Her name is Christine." The name hung in the air, a poison gas seeping under her door. "Christine. Her name is Christine." For a terrifying second, the world tilted. It couldn't be. It was a coincidence, a cruel trick. But the guard's words replayed in her mind. A daughter no one knows about. Her mother's evasive answers about her father, the way they'd moved constantly when she was a child, it all clicked into a horrifying picture. She didn't wait. She yanked the door open, startling the two men. "Where is he?" she demanded, her voice shaking. "Where's Rico? I need to see him. Now." They drove her to a sleek, modern high-rise that felt a world away from her diner. Rico was in a glass-walled office, his back to the city skyline. He turned as she entered, a flicker of surprise and concern in his eyes. It vanished when he saw her face. "You know," she whispered, the words tearing out of her. "You know who my father is?" Rico's expression hardened. He gave a sharp nod to the guards, who left, closing the door. "Salvatore Marino," he said, the name a curse. "I had my people dig after what my men set outside your door. I'm sorry you had to find out that way." Tears streamed down Christine's face. "I never knew him. He left us. My mother, she said he was gone." She wrapped her arms around herself, feeling like a little girl. "Why would he abandon us?" Rico's gaze was steady, but not unkind. "My investigators think he did it to protect you. To keep you hidden from men like me. His enemies. I am his biggest enemy, Christine. And now that I have you, he will see it as a declaration of war." The reality of it crashed down on her. Her father wasn't a ghost, he was a monster. And the man she was falling for was the monster's greatest foe. Rico stepped closer, his voice low and intense. "Listen to me. You are not your father. You are the woman from the diner. And I will protect you from him, I swear it." Just then Christine's phone, which she was clutching in her hand, buzzed. An unknown number. With a trembling finger, she opened the text. "My dear Christine," it read. "Don't believe a word he says. Rico isn't protecting you. He's holding you to get to me. He knew who you were from the very first text." The two messages warred in her head, tearing her in two. Her father's claim was a seed of doubt, sprouting thorns of fear. Rico's promise was a warm ember in her chest, fighting to stay alive. Who was lying? Seeing her turmoil, Rico acted. "We can't stay here. It's not safe." He took her to a safe house, a secluded cabin deep in the woods. It was supposed to be a fortress, but to Christine, it felt like a gilded cage. The tension between them was a physical thing, thick and heavy. "Did you know?" she finally asked, her voice small in the quiet of the cabin. "That first day? Did you know who I was?" "No," Rico said, his jaw tight. "I knew someone named Christine Marino existed, but I thought she was a myth, living overseas. I had no file, no picture. The woman who texted me was a complete surprise." They argued, the fear and confusion turning into sharp words. He was frustrated she could doubt him. She was terrified she was being a fool. The anger was a fire, and it burned away all their careful walls. He grabbed her arms, not to hurt her, but to pull her close. "Don't you see?" he growled, his voice raw with emotion. "I fell for the woman in the diner, not the daughter of my enemy." Their lips met in a collision that was all fire and desperation. It wasn't like their first kiss. This was deeper, hotter, a storm of feeling they could no longer control. It was a confession without words, a promise sealed not with a ring, but with touch. That night, in the quiet of the safe house, they admitted everything. They were falling in love, a crazy, dangerous love born from a text message and forged in secrets. Waking in his arms the next morning, Christine felt a fragile peace. She believed him. She had to. His promise echoed in her heart. But as she moved around the cabin, looking for coffee, her foot knocked against a loose floorboard under the rug. Curiosity piqued, she pried it up. Hidden beneath was a single, crisp manila folder. Her heart stopped. With shaking hands, she opened it. It was a report on her. Her name, her mother's name, the old address of the diner. And at the top, stamped in black ink, was a date. The date was from the day before she had ever sent that first, fateful text. The world shattered. The ember of trust in her chest was snuffed out, leaving only cold, bitter ash. He had lied. Her father was right. Rico had known all along. Every text, every look, every touch, it had all been a game to get to her father. The fiery passion of the night before now felt like a disgusting trick. Blind with a pain she had never known, she didn't confront him. She waited until he was on a phone call in another room, his back turned. Then she ran. She fled the cabin, branches whipping at her face, and didn't stop until she had a phone signal. She called the number, her father's number. "It's me," she choked out. "Christine. You were right. I want to meet. I want to know the truth." He gave her an address, an old, abandoned warehouse by the docks. It felt like a scene from a bad movie, but she was too hurt to care. She had to get away from Rico, from the man who had broken her heart so completely. When she arrived, the warehouse was dark and empty except for a few figures standing in a pool of light. A man turned. He looked nothing like she imagined. He was older, with graying hair and cold, calculating eyes that held no warmth, no recognition. "Christine," he said, and his voice was like gravel. "Finally." She took a step forward. "You're my father?" Before he could answer, heavy footsteps echoed behind her. She turned to see Rico, his face a mask of fury and fear, standing in the doorway, alone. He'd found her. "Let her go, Marino," Rico snarled. "This is between us." In a flash, Salvatore Marino grabbed Christine, yanking her back against his chest. The cold barrel of a gun pressed against her temple. She was a human shield. "It is between us, Conti," her father sneered, his breath hot on her ear. "And I just even the odds." Rico stood frozen, his hands raised, his eyes locked on Christine's terrified ones. He was powerless. Salvatore let out a low, ugly laugh. He was enjoying this. He looked down at Christine, his voice a triumphant whisper meant only for her. "That report you found? The one that broke your pretty little heart? I had one of my men on Rico's payroll plant it there this morning. I needed you to run. I needed you to run right back to me." The cold metal of the gun pressed harder against Christine's temple. Her father's grip was like iron. She could see Rico across the warehouse, his body tense, his hands raised in a gesture of surrender. For a mafia boss known as the Viper, he looked utterly powerless, and it was all because of her. "Let her go, Marino," Rico's voice echoed, low and dangerous. "Your fight is with me." "It was," Salvatore sneered. "Now, it's about seeing you beg." He shifted the gun. "On your knees, Conti." Rico's eyes flickered to Christine's. In that split second, a whole conversation passed between them. She saw not just fear for his own life, but a terrifying, all-consuming fear for hers. He was calculating, his mind racing for a way out where she lived. He began to slowly lower himself to the ground. It was the distraction he needed. As Rico moved, one of his men, positioned silently in the rafters after following him, took a single, clean shot. The bullet wasn't meant to kill. It struck Salvatore's shoulder, causing him to roar in pain and his grip on Christine to falter for just a second. That was all the time Rico needed. He launched himself forward, not at Salvatore, but at Christine, tackling her to the ground and shielding her body with his own as the warehouse erupted into chaos. His men swarmed in, engaging Salvatore's guards in a storm of shouts and gunfire. Rico dragged Christine behind a stack of crates, his eyes frantically scanning her for injuries. "Are you hurt?" She could only shake her head, stunned. The fight was short and brutal. Rico's men were efficient and precise. Soon, the only sound was the groaning of Salvatore's wounded men. Rico stood, pulling Christine up with him, and walked toward her father, who was now disarmed and clutching his bleeding shoulder, held by two of Rico's soldiers. Rico picked up a gun from the floor. He stood over Salvatore, his expression unreadable. This was it. The moment he could end his oldest enemy. The man who had caused him so much trouble. The man who had just held a gun to the head of the woman he loved. He raised the gun. Christine held her breath, her heart pounding. She hated her father in that moment, but he was still her blood. Rico's finger tightened on the trigger, and then he lowered the weapon. He looked at Christine, his eyes asking a silent question. She gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. "Get him out of my city," Rico commanded his men, his voice cold. "If he ever returns, he won't live to regret it." As his men dragged a stunned Salvatore away, the defeated man spat at Rico's feet. "You're weak because of her. A sentimental fool." Rico didn't even flinch. He put his arm around Christine, pulling her close. He looked her father dead in the eye. "No," he said, his voice strong and clear. "I'm powerful because I have her." Back in the safety of his penthouse, with the city lights twinkling below, the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Christine sat, wrapped in a blanket as Rico explained. "The file you found was real," he began, his voice gentle. "But you didn't understand it. A week before you texted me, I intercepted a communication. Your father had placed a secret bounty on your head. He was getting old, paranoid that a rival would find you and use you against him. He decided it was safer if you disappeared." Christine felt the blood drain from her face. Her own father had wanted her dead. "I had my people dig up everything they could," Rico continued. "But it was just a name, Christine Marino, and an old photo of your mother. We had no idea where you were. We were trying to find you to warn you, to protect you." The file was dated from that search. "When you sent that text, when you sent that selfie, it was a miracle. I had finally found you, completely by accident. And I was terrified because my enemy's daughter had just walked right into my life, and all I wanted to do was keep her safe." The last of the doubt and hurt melted away, replaced by a love so strong it felt unbreakable. He had been her protector from the very beginning, even before he knew her. Their love was now built on a foundation of complete, unshakable honesty. They spent the next few weeks planning, not just for a life, but for their life, a partnership in a world that would never be simple. But their newfound peace was fragile. One evening, Rico's second-in-command burst into the room, his face grim. "Boss, we have a problem. The Lombardi family from New York. They've moved in." Rico's face darkened. The Lombardis were newer, richer, and more ruthless than any family he had dealt with. They were sharks, and they smelled blood in the water. "They see our truce with Marino's old crew as a weakness," his man explained. "They think we've gone soft. They're declaring war on everyone left in the city." A new kind of tension filled the air. This enemy didn't play by the old rules. They were brutal, flashy, and aimed to take over everything. Rico and his men were skilled fighters, but they were facing a larger, more vicious army. They were being pushed back. Christine watched it all from the sidelines, no longer a scared waitress, but a partner frustrated by the limitations of her role. She saw the patterns where the men only saw violence. She saw the Lombardi's weakness, their arrogance. One night, as Rico paced, mapping out a bloody, last-ditch counterattack, Christine spoke up. "You can't beat them by being stronger," she said, her voice clear and confident. "You have to be smarter." Rico stopped and looked at her. "What are you thinking? They're taking over all the businesses on the waterfront, right? They're moving their illegal goods through the old shipyards." She pointed to the map. "They're powerful because the police are scared of them. But what if the police had no choice but to look?" A slow smile spread across Rico's face as she laid out her plan. It was brilliant, and it didn't involve a single bullet fired by their side. Using her knowledge of the city from her years as a waitress, she identified a forgotten, city-owned access tunnel that led directly into the heart of the Lombardi's main warehouse. Rico's men, following her precise instructions, didn't plant a bomb. They planted a single, anonymous tip to a high-ranking, honest police commissioner, along with a dozen burner phones, all calling each other to create a false, massive police scramble on all the Lombardi-controlled docks. The result was chaos. The Lombardis, thinking they were being raided from all sides, panicked. They turned on each other, trying to save their own operations. Fights broke out within their ranks. By the time the real police arrived, the Lombardi family was in disarray, their leaders arrested, their organization broken from the inside out. Rico's family had won, without starting a war they might have lost. A few weeks later, the Moonlight Diner was quiet. Rico had rented it out for the night. He and Christine sat in the very same booth where it had all begun. "You know," Christine said, a soft smile on her face, "when I texted that I wished a powerful man would sweep me off my feet, I didn't know I'd get all of this." She gestured around them, at the diner, at him, at their crazy life. Rico took her hand, his thumb stroking her knuckles. "Our life won't be quiet," he said, his voice serious. "It will never be normal. There will always be someone new, some new chaos. Christine nodded, her eyes shining. I know. But, he continued, sliding out of the booth and getting down on one knee. He pulled a small, velvet box from his pocket. Christine's breath hitched. It will be ours. Forever. Christine, will you marry me? Tears of pure joy streamed down her face. This was not the ending she had ever imagined, but it was the one she now wanted more than anything. Yes, she whispered. Yes. As they kissed, surrounded by the quiet hum of the diner, they knew this wasn't an ending. It was a new beginning. They were no longer just a mafia boss and a waitress. They were partners. They were a team. And they were ready to face whatever came next, side by side. We hope you were on the edge of your seat until the very last moment. The story of Christine and Rico is over, but our channel is full of more dramatic, heart-pounding tales just like it. If this story had you hooked, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss another epic romance. We upload new stories every single week. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments where you are watching from and what your thoughts are. Were you shocked by her father's final betrayal? Did you cheer when Rico chose to spare him? Share your thoughts about the story down below. Your comments fuel our next creations. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.